Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Sal. Et merci tout le monde. Je suis très content d'être ici pour parler de relations de travail et de ce que la table de négociation dit sur notre économie et le Canada aujourd'hui. First of all, I just have to make the remark that I think in the 120-year history of the Empire Club, they probably did not think back then that there would be a guy named Sal Rabani who would be the two-time serving chair of the board of directors. I don't even know 120 years ago if they would have let an Arsenault in, but I can tell you for sure they wouldn't have let an O'Regan be the guest speaker. So we've all come a long way. I want to thank the Empire Club for putting all this together. Everyone in this room has a lot of things to do, I know, and an inbox that just won't quit. So for 120 years, though, this place has recognized the importance of thoughtful discussion and debate. It has recognized that public policy, like this country, is often the result of compromise. So thank you for including me in this tradition. And thank you for being here. Thank you for your patriotism. That's, you know, when I say patriotism, that's your interest, your investment in our country and in the big challenges that Canada is confronting. Your patriotism matters. So I stand here before you, happy to report that the fundamentals of our economy are strong. Last week, the finance minister tabled the government's fall economic statement. Our government is projected to grow faster than the US, France, UK, Japan, faster than all of them in 2024. Our unemployment rate remains at a historic low of 5.7%. We have the lowest deficit and debt to GDP ratio in the G7. We have the fastest job recovery in the G7. Over 1 million more Canadians are working now than they were before the pandemic. We are third in the world for foreign direct investment, and we are projected to have the strongest economic growth in the G7 in 2024, according to the IMF. I can say all that, and it has the benefit of being true. The problem is no one's feeling it. Because people don't live in the G7. Your local bank branch isn't the IMF. Likely you live in a house or a condo or an apartment with rent that has been going up or a mortgage renewal that's looming. But my God, we have just come out of a global pandemic. Our economy may be past it, but we're not. We're not. We're tired. We're thin-skinned. We're anxious. It's all fertile ground for people in powerful positions who want to make people more anxious and angry about the world. People who want to rile people up, who want to provoke, who want to prod, who want to firm the rage. I don't know about you, but I'm tired already of populism. It's exhausting. It's reckless, too. It demonizes. It destabilizes. It takes energy away from the things that we really should be doing. And it seeks out common enemies. What, in fact, we should be doing is finding common cause. So, I was invited here to talk about the bargaining table. And we seem to be seeing more heated labor disputes, more lockouts, more strikes, and it's natural to ask why. Negotiations don't happen in a vacuum. When employers and workers come to the bargaining table, they bring with them all the pressures and the uncertainties and the aspirations of the world around them. They're human beings. Workers are anxious. They're anxious about automation, about the cost of living, about a changing labor market where their skills may not be needed next year. Employers are anxious too. They're facing the tightest labor market in generations. The bar for what is considered to be a good boss keeps going up, and they've got to compete with some countries who are still in a race to the bottom. People need stability. The government should be a force for stability. That's our job. For workers, for employers, for investors. Stability means that people need to know where they're headed, that they have the confidence in the future, and they know that they have some say in that future. Stability means workers go to sleep at night knowing that they'll have a job the next day, the next year, maybe not the same job, but assuredly a good job. Stability means employers know when to build and that they have confidence in the rules and the regulations around it to know that they can build. Stability means investors have confidence in the economy and in their investments. Stability is a sought-after commodity these days because we are living in a critical moment. The energy transition to renewables and to lower emissions, that transition's here, right now. Right now, companies are deciding where to invest and where to build. We can't talk about labor relations, about workers' anxiety, about any of it without talking about the energy transition. It is the single biggest challenge and opportunity of our time. I call it our national mission. And Canada's not new to it. We're not playing catch-up. We've been building this industry for years. As a percentage of our 2022 GDP, Canada is nearly tied with the US for every dollar invested in the clean economy, and we've blown by the European Union. But to sustain that growth, we need to provide stability and confidence for workers, for employers, for investors, so Canada can be the world leader in clean energy. So where do you begin? You begin by listening. Listening to workers, listening to employers, listening to investors. You listen, you take advice, you act. That is the only way to do big things in a big country like ours. And if you don't do that hard work, you leave people as they are, anxious about the future. And when people are anxious, they cling to the familiar. It's natural. What's familiar today may very well be obsolete tomorrow, though. But there's one thing that workers need to hear from us, that there will be good jobs that they can count on. Our industrial policy is not running away from workers. Our industrial policy goes hand in hand with workers because we've tied it to labor standards. Last year, we announced 5 new clean tax credits. We're investing $85 billion over the next decade in tax credits for carbon capture, utilization, and storage, CCUS, clean tech adoption, clean hydrogen, clean technology manufacturing, and clean electricity. And to get the full benefit, you have to hire union workers or pay workers a prevailing union wage. That is a game changer. That is a game changer. Canada's clean energy industry will be built by workers with good jobs they can count on. I know industry is impatient to have those tax credits in place. In the fall economic statement, Minister Freeland announced a detailed timeline for consultations and for implementation for each of those tax credits. The legislation is going to be tabled in the fall of 2024, and 2 of the credits, though, are already enforced because they're going to be retroactive. For $85 billion in investments, I would argue this is actually an aggressive pace. So if your business wants to build a project, now you can go to your board and say, look, this is when it needs to be ready, this is when we can apply for those credits, and this is when we can expect the return. Investors need to have that confidence. Those ITCs, I would say, they are an example where I think we are hitting the mark in allaying the concerns of workers, employers, and investors alike. Building confidence. Building confidence wherever we can find it. Because I don't think any of us are over COVID. I don't think any of us are over COVID. I don't think we've dealt with it. As a country, as a world, we've just moved on. We're busy. You know, we got things to do, we got bills to pay, we have families to care for, life carries on. But we've been jarred. We've changed. And as a result, as we say in Newfoundland, the nerves are rub raw. Our nerves are rub raw. We're reeling in the wake of a global pandemic. We have a war raging in Europe. We have the Middle East on the precipice. We have a climate crisis. We have a suddenly aging population. So I understand when no one's feeling it. Feeling the most remarkable economic recovery I could imagine for a country of people who just spent years in varying degrees of isolation, socially distancing, afraid of one another. If you told me in my 14th Zoom call of the day, in the 14th month of my isolation, running the Department of Natural Resources at home, alone, with my husband, that this country would not just recover from the ravages of a global pandemic, but would lead the world in job growth, not just recovering all those lost jobs, but adding hundreds of thousands more, I would never believe you. Picture yourself back then. You wouldn't believe it. We did that. All of us as a country, we did that. And we can't forget that. We can't just move on. We will not understand this perpetual angst that we find ourselves in if we don't remember what we have been through. And more importantly, we will not be able to tackle the massive challenges that confront us unless we remember what we did, what we, all of us, together, what we did. We need to remember patriotism. We need to celebrate it, like you do here. Not flag waving and anthems, but deeds, what we did. Canada is a country that rallies. We come together in hours of need, in hours of loss, in hours of joy. Our patriotism is defined by our willingness to stand by each other and rise together. We define ourselves by the good that we do, not the noise that we make. COVID may have shaken us, and we may still be dealing with it, but we did better than anyone coming out of it. Anyone. We proved our mettle. We chose to look after one another. We chose to believe in one another. And it's time to believe again in the resilience and skill of our workers, in the ability of employers and industry to find common cause and show the world what we can do. It's time to believe in investors who know to their bones the inherent and limitless opportunity of this great country. It's time to believe in ourselves again. It's time to believe in Canada. Merci beaucoup. Thank you.